know. Tell me all of your thoughts and opinions on Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. It's the first movie you ever saw. Do you have any thoughts on that? Please talk into the microphone. No? Okay.
Hello and welcome to Star Wars Every Week Forever, the podcast in which we watch one Star Wars movie every week forever. This week, Ben waves again. A New Hope!
I've been doing that for the past, rotation and a half.
I know. Just know, audience at home, that you are being waved at when we start. Ben, how was your watch?
So, hello. It's okay. Much better than I expected, which is saying a lot lately.
It is saying a lot whenever we can say much better than expected at this point.
It was surprisingly bearable.
Chris, how was your watch?
That was fine. It was a little too close together with a recording than I would have liked, but, you know.
I already talked about our recording schedule's been fine.
Yeah, nothing.
No. Yeah, you're right. I don't know.
Nothing was different about a recording schedule. I don't know what you're talking about.
Must just be confused. I don't know.
Are you talking to other podcasts, Chris?
Are you talking? Listen, I thought we were in a committed monogamous podcast.
Look, it's the same thing I say
There's
about the
three of
Mormons
us
all
here.
the
This
time,
isn't
right?
monogamous.
I don't have the emotional bandwidth for another podcast. I don't know how other people.
What about our little guest? What did our little guest think of Star Wars: A New Hope?
Yeah. How was your watch? No thoughts, no opinions.
He's invoking the right to remain silent, I feel.
Yeah, I think so. It's probably a safe bet.
How was your watch, Jay? Oh. Okay, thought we were gonna get some wisdom.
It was fine.
No.
A New Hope is usually a breath of fresh air because it feels like you're in, out, done. So I was in, out, done, and that was nice. But I don't really have much to say otherwise.
They sure hoped, and it was new.
Don't have hope left. My hope has been stamped out.
How many variations of that joke are we gonna make on these episodes?
It's not a new hope, but I have the hope every rotation that there will be a pod race.
I hate
And
you
that's-
so much.
That's the real hope. That's the new hope.
I hate you so much.
I hate me too.
Don't
Jesus
even. See, you only respond like that because you're weaponizing us being mad at you back at us.
No, it's just
Stop.
pure. It's all
Stop.
aimed at me.
Stop it. You stop.
Jesus
You
Christ.
stop that nonsense right now. You stop that nonsense right now.
Ben, you know you fucked up when JS turned her camera on just specifically to point at you and be like, no.
Jay made one appearance tonight. It was to scold me.
Yeah, that's how it normally goes.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say, but you know who does have a lot to say? Mr. the Roger of Eberts.
Mr. the Roger.
Mr. the Rogers. Not Mr. Not to be confused with Mr. the Rogers. Mr.
Roger.
the Ebert.
Roger.
So I ran into a little bit of a problem this week.
Oh?
I obviously have the January 1st, 1977 review of Star Wars, just Star Wars from Mr. Roger the Ebert. But I additionally, while looking this up, found the June 28th, 1999 review of Star Wars, this time with Episode 4, A New Hope. The second screening that they did when the special features came out.
Interesting.
So
we have like an original one, and then Roger Ebert reacting to the special features changes.
I suppose I haven't read either. I saved that for the show. But I figure since there's two anyway, and since we won't really have Roger Ebert reviews for the sequels, I guess we can just read both. So they're both.
It really is a
Roger,
shame.
your only hope.
It really is a. Oh my god. It really is a shame that we're not going to have those sequel reviews, because I would have been very interested.
We'll see.
Like,
Maybe I'll find a
how-
supplement, but
How is Roger Ebert's site run now? Obviously, other people are doing the reviews. Is
I
it
don't know.
one consistent person, or is it multiple people? Has it just become like a blog at this point? Is it multiple random people doing reviews?
I have no idea.
Because we should definitely dig into it a little bit. If it's a situation where it's someone who worked closely with Roger Ebert or something, or like if it's someone that Roger Ebert trusted to take it over,
If it's close enough,
It-
I mean,
There's
I'd
a
be
lot
down
of
with
people
it.
here.
If each of these reviews is done by a different person, absolutely not.
I'm seeing a lot of 2 different names, but there's other names in here as well. It looks like it's become a business with several reviewers. Should we start with the June 1st or January 1st, 1977 review, or should we start with the June 28th, 1999 review?
I feel like we should probably start with the 70.
that's what I was gonna say. 77 review,
Let's do it.
You get
then.
the
the
Prime
classic.
review, yeah, the classic, and then the new special features one.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah?
I think he agrees. So
I appreciate the input. Thank you so much, our first podcast.
I can't wait.
guest.
I can't wait till he grows up, and he listens to this episode. He's like, "Yeah, Dad, I was totally disagreeing with you on that. Like, there's
Yeah.
no way
Yeah.
I wanted."
We'll do an audio commentary on this audio commentary podcast. That's just your son saying
Yeah.
what his thought process was at the time. If you put this podcast up to your own newly born child, they'll understand it because it's a Rugrats situation.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I have what I think of as an out-of-the-body experience at a movie. When the ESP people use a phrase like that, they're referring to the sensation of the mind actually leaving the body and
the
spiriting
ESP people.
the ESP people, and spiriting itself off to China or Peoria or a galaxy far, far away. When I use that phrase, I simply mean that my imagination has forgotten it is actually present in a movie theater and thinks it's up there on the screen. In a curious sense, the events in the movie seem real, and I seem to be part of them. Star Wars works like that. My list of other out-of-the-body films is short and odd, ranging from the artistry of Bonnie and Clyde or Cries and Whispers to the slick commercialism of Jaws and the brutal strength of Taxi Driver. On whatever level, sometimes I'm not at all sure, they engage me so immediately and powerfully that I lose my detachment, my analytical reserve. The movie's happening, and it's happening to me. What makes the Star Wars experience so unique, though, is that it happens on such an innocent and often funny level. It's usually violence that draws me so deeply into a movie.
Hold on,
We
Jay.
got to
Jay,
take
wait.
a pause on that.
Uh-huh.
I was there
I
in
was-
1977 in the Star War.
So, like, hold on, because we've been saying this for a while that like we feel like these movies are just happening to us. Are you telling us Roger Ebert beat us to using that term?
Hold on, am I
decade
alone?
No, wait. I feel like it's the opposite, where Roger Ebert felt like he was in the movie.
Hold on, I feel like the odd girl
Well, yeah,
out, which
no,
I am on
I
this
know
podcast
he's-
as a general rule, but you've never had this
I know
experience in a
the-
theater?
Well, no, what I'm saying is I understand what he's saying and he's using it in a positive way, but we have also on this podcast been describing these movies as happening to us.
Yeah.
And I just think it's very funny to hear someone using that term, but in a positive way
Well,
about the same movies.
The difference to me is what he's describing is having an out-of-body experience where you're not... He refers to it as an out-of-the-body experience, and I just...
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's what
That's
I'm saying.
weird
Like, it's
descriptor.
it's definitely, he's describing it in a very positive
Yeah.
way. Clearly, it's very funny. The terminology he's using has been the terminology we've been using as, like, trauma.
I've had that experience in theaters. When I say that in response to trauma, it's less, oh, I'm a part of the Star Wars, and more, I'm sitting in the Clockwork Orange, my eyes have been forced open by several pieces of metal, and I'm stuck in a room watching Star Wars. So it's not happening to me. The experience of
That's
being
kind of what this
forced to watch
podcast
them.
feels like. This podcast feels like a Clockwork Orange these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least
Totally.
the movie watching experience. It's like I have to watch this and I don't want to.
Yeah. I don't think
Yeah,
anybody has ever
totally.
wanted to watch Clockwork Orange, though.
I agree with this
You've never
movie
seen
that I've
Clockwork
seen.
Orange, yeah.
I can't.
I
forget.
agree because I've seen Clockwork Orange and I will never watch it again.
It's a
Bad movie.
I know it's
fine
like 3.5
movie.
hours long or something like
It's
that.
one of those movies that like it's all right.
It's grotesque for grotesque's sake.
Yes.
Well, it's Stanley Kubrick.
It's Kubrick. Kubrick, yeah.
I like Kubrick. Clockwork Orange is just. It makes me feel the same way I feel when I watch a lot of way too serious comic book adaptations these days. Where it's like, it's just grotesque for the sake of being grotesque.
Speaking of, I had a coworker tell me the other day that he loves the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie.
This is what does it say about our podcast that we bring up Daredevil 2003 all the time?
Too much.
Oh, Twitter.
Too much.
Hey, Twitter. I noticed that you took down my edit of Walking on Sunshine, but the weird fight scene between Matt Murdock and Elektra. I noticed that you took that down. Twitter. You realize it's
I blame Elon Musk.
He's not in charge yet, but
I know.
well,
I blame him anyway.
most things in life on Elon Musk.
I blame Elon Musk. I don't care.
What makes the Star Wars experience unique, though, is that it happens on such an innocent and funny level. It's usually violence that draws me so deeply into a movie. Violence raising from the psychological torment of a Bergman character to the mindless crunch of a shark's jaws. Maybe movies that scare us find the most direct route to our imaginations. But there's hardly any violence at all in Star Wars, and even then it's presented as essentially bloodless swashbuckling. Instead, there's entertainment so direct and simple that all the complications in the modern movie seem to vaporize. Star Wars is a fairy tale, a fantasy, a legend, finding its roots in some of our most popular fictions. The golden robot, the lion-faced space pilot, the insecure little computer on wheels must have been suggested by the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, and the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. Sorry, Roger, the origins of these characters are probably way more racist than you think.
I'm sure.
The journey from one end of the galaxy to another is out of the countless thousands of space operas. The hardware is from Flash Gordon out of 2001: A Space Odyssey. The chivalry is from Robin Hood. The heroes are from westerns, and the villains are a cross between Nazis and sorcerers. Star Wars taps the pulp fantasies buried in our memory. And
Chris looks like we lost him.
I feel like I just had a stroke.
What do you mean?
I can see Chris's brain loading.
Can we go back a few Western
we lose
Heroes
yet
was coming
Nazi
before Western
sorcerers?
Heroes. No, that one makes sense. That one's fine.
Okay.
I get that. That one tracks. That one checks out. Whoa, okay, Western Heroes. What was the one before that?
Before Western Heroes, it was the chivalry of Robin Hood.
Where is their chivalry?
I mean,
where are they finding this chivalry?
I think he's mistaking chivalry for misogyny.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
Like, you know,
it was 1977.
70s chivalry.
1977 is pretty much that.
Is, you know, oh, there's a damsel in distress, and
Yes.
the only one who can save her is this white male. I'm sorry, young one.
I thought you were confused about the heroes are from westerns and the heroes are from westerns part.
I mean, that one's also somewhat confusing. I don't understand exactly what he's
I
going
also
for
don't.
with that. The villain's one dead on.
Okay, that's because I
no
noticed notes. Your face while Jay said that one, so I was like, Chris, that's like the easy
yeah.
one.
And
no,
I mean-
no notes on that one, Roger. Perfect description.
And I mean, Flash Gordon is George Lucas's admitted inspiration for all of this.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Ben, do you know what Flash Gordon is?
Yeah,
Tell me about Flash Gordon, Ben.
Tell me about
Flash Gordon. So, Flash Gordon, father of Barry Allen, was.
No, stop it. Try again.
Flash Gordon was the.
Flash Gordon. It's actually Commissioner Gordon's name when he becomes.
No. I'm sorry. I know you're getting confused, but they are very similar. Flash Gordon is actually Peter Parker's school bully. Flash Gordon was the original serial sci-fi hero.
So, breakfast.
Oh my god, shoot me in the head and dump me in a ditch.
I've been given too much
Cereal
power.
as in weekly television.
I know what you mean.
Flash Gordon's villain, was that Ming the Merciless?
Fuck if I know, I'm not that old.
That Flash Gordon? I got a bunch of random nerd knowledge up here. That was Flash Gordon, right?
I don't know, first guest on the podcast, what do you think about Flash Gordon? I know you've seen all the episodes.
Yeah. Ming the Merciless is a fictional character
Is
for
it-
the Spirit Flash Gordon
Oh.
comic strip in 1934.
I
Why do
thought
I
it would
know
be
that?
Probably
reverse
because
Flash Gordon.
they did a weird remake movie in like the late 80s.
I've never seen that.
I bet you have, because I forget it exists all the time, and then we'll have a conversation about Flash Gordon, and it just pops back into my brain.
I don't think I've ever seen anything non-animated that was Flash Gordon.
There's a weird live-action movie. I've seen it a
Oh.
few times. I remember nothing about it other than it looked cheap, which it probably was. Star Wars taps the pulp fantasies buried in our memories, and because it's done so brilliantly, it reactivates old thrills, fears, and exhilarations we thought we'd abandoned when we read our last copy of Amazing Stories. The movie works so well for several reasons, and they don't all have to do with the spectacular special effects. The effects are good, yes, but great effects have been used in such movies as Silent Running and Logan's Run, with setting all-time box office records. No, I think the key to Star Wars is more basic than that. The movie relies on the strength of pure narrative, in the most basic storytelling form known to man, the journey. All the best tales we remember from our childhood had to do with heroes setting out to travel down roads filled with danger and hoping to find treasure or heroism at the journey's end. In Star Wars, George Lucas takes this simple and powerful framework into outer space, and that is an inspired thing to do because we no longer have maps on Earth that warn, "Here there be dragons." Nerd.
I really wish
I
someone would have
editorialized
told
it.
him. I wish someone would have told him, like, hey, in like 30 years, you're gonna do a review of a Star Wars movie, and like the only nice thing you're gonna have to say is, it looked pretty.
No. In 30 years, you're gonna do a review of a Star Wars movie, and the only defense of it you're gonna have to say is, "Well, I watched it on film, so maybe I'm wrong."
Yeah.
But it's funny too because he's talking about how Star Wars is an amalgamation of ideas that are just retold, and in a way, that's what we keep talking about Force Awakens feels like when you first go to see that viewing. It's an amalgamation of ideas retold, but it's A New Hope this time, not many different ideas put together.
It's an amalgamation of this one thing.
We can't fall off the edge of the map as Columbus could, and we can't apparently Roger Ebert's a flat earther, and we can't hope to find new continents, prehistoric monsters, or lost tribes ruled by immortal goddesses.
Jay, we are in the midst of wading through Hellcourt right now.
Yeah.
We really can't be making statements like this.
He literally said we can't fall off the edge of the map as
Alleged-
Columbus could.
Allegedly.
Al-
Allegedly.
Flat Earthers come up a lot on this podcast.
Yeah, we really need to.
I know 3 things.
I know. Pretty thing.
Listen, I only believe 2 things. 1, the Earth is flat, and 2, Porkins killed JFK.
Not on Earth anyway, but anything is possible in space, and Lucas goes right ahead and shows us very nearly everything. We get involved quickly because the characters in Star Wars are so strongly and simply drawn and have so many small foils and large futile hopes for us to identify with. And then Lucas does an interesting thing, as he sends his heroes off to cross the universe and do battle with the forces of Darth Vader, the evil Empire, and the awesome Death Star. He gives us lots of special effects, yes. Ships passing into hyperspace, alien planets, an infinity of stars.
Damn, I can't believe he actually wrote a burp into there.
Shut up, Ben. But we also get... But we also get a wealth of strange living creatures, and Lucas correctly guesses that they'll be more interesting for us than all of the intergalactic hardware. The most fascinating single scene for me, and you can see what's coming next, was the one set in the bizarre saloon on the planet Tatooine. As that incredible collection of extraterrestrial alcoholics and bug-eyed martini drinkers lined up at the bar, and as Lucas so slyly let them exhibit characteristics that were universally human, I found myself feeling a combination of admiration and delight. Star Wars had placed me in the presence of really magical movie invention. Here, all mixed together, were whimsy and fantasy, simple wonderment, and quietly sophisticated storytelling.
That's kind of weirdly phrased, how he was like, all these aliens that were, like, acting like people would. It was so whimsical.
Yeah. That was a little weird.
I get what he's trying to say, though, but you're absolutely right.
I do, too.
Yeah. Like, I fully get what he's trying to say. It's just what he's trying to say is a little strange.
I just think he's excited by the idea of being in a room with all of these aliens, but obviously, like, bug-eyed was a descriptor that he used.
Since, we know that Roger Ebert had a psychotic break, apparently, during his viewing of this, and had an out-of-body experience, and thought he was in Star Wars, so...
Y'all
was
really
Roger
gonna...
Ebert the original inspiration for this, Jay?
Huh?
Was Roger Ebert the original inspiration for Star Wars Every Week Forever? You were like, you know what? I want that
Buddy,
out-of-body experience.
Yeah, obviously you can blame Roger Ebert for the creation of this podcast. It's what he would have wanted.
You cannot blame him for anything. Allegedly,
you keep saying that we're going to get in trouble in Hellcourt, but you also keep talking about his severe mental breakdown and how he's racist against aliens. It's not just me here.
It was a severe mental breakdown. I just said it was phrased kind of weird, in my opinion.
Stop sucking thumb.
I do what I want.
Please don't tell our first podcast guest what to do and not to do. We're welcoming and inviting on this show.
He's got a tough schedule. Like,
yeah,
he's been dodging us for a while.
It's hard to get him booked. God damn it.
When Stanley Kubrick was making 2001 in the late 1960s, he threw everything he had into the special effects depicting outer space, but he finally decided not to show any aliens at all, because they were impossible to visualize, he thought. But they weren't at all, as Star Wars demonstrates, and the movie's delight in the possibilities of alien life forms is at least as much fun as its conflicts between the space cruisers of the Empire and the Rebels.
Roger Ebert is giving George Lucas a lot of credit right now. Can you imagine a single one of the aliens in Star Wars being revealed as the aliens in 2001: A Space Odyssey?
Oh, it would have broken immersion.
Like, the way he says that, it's like, well, he thought it couldn't be done, but George Lucas proves him wrong. Look at all these aliens. Yeah, fucking put those aliens in that movie.
Wait a minute,
see how much you believe that, Roger.
Are you saying that for some reason a guy in a Spirit Halloween werewolf mask wouldn't work in 2001: A Space Odyssey? I'm shocked by this revelation.
Ben, have you ever seen 2001: A Space Odyssey? He asks, knowing the answer.
Not the whole thing. I have seen large chunks of it, and every time I go to start it, it's like the beginning of mankind, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be here for a while.
Was this friend of the show Redacted's doing?
Oh, that's one of the... Me and my dad used to have these movies that just whenever they were on, we just watch whatever's left of them on TV, and that's one of them. He'd always yell for me, like, Ben, 2001's on! I'm like, hold on!
Just reminds me of a recent D&D moment we had that was like, in the beginning of time, and everyone in the group going, no,
like, oh, God,
absolutely not.
Stop.
Forward. Yeah. But he goes, like with Kubrick, and I'm like, are we about to come full circle back to A Clockwork Orange?
Yeah. Back to A Clockwork Orange.
And perhaps that helps to explain the movie's one weakness, which is that the final assault on the Death Star is allowed to go on too long. That's new. That is a new complaint that I have heard.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
Maybe having invested so much money and sweat in his special effects, Lucas couldn't bear to see them trimmed. But the magic of Star Wars is only dramatized by the special effects, and the movie's heart is in its endearingly human and non-human people.
Who are still very human, allegedly.
It's just this dude in a fucking werewolf mask. What do you mean, Roger?
So that was his 1977 review of Star Wars. Now I also have the June 28th, 1999 review of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, which is also a 4-star review.
This movie is still good, says Roger Ebert.
It's just the shortest review ever. Still a good movie.
To see Star Wars again after 20 years is to revisit a place in the mind. George Lucas's space epic has colonized our imagination, and it is hard to Yeah, that's a phrase.
I would not say that's a glowing way to phrase that, but what do I know?
And it is hard to stand back and see it simply as a motion picture, because it has so completely become part of our memories. It's as goofy as a children's tale, and shallow as an old Saturday afternoon cereal, as corny as Kansas in August, and a masterpiece. Those who analyze its philosophy do so, I imagine, with a smile in their minds. May the Force be with them.
Bye.
Goodbye. Are we losing the little guy? Goodbye,
Yeah,
first guest.
Guest has to go. He's got a meeting.
Yeah.
Catch. We
We
couldn't book him for the whole show.
Yeah, it was too much money. We were paying.
Yeah.
As you all know, we don't make money off of this show, but this show is brought to you by. I'm looking at
Darth Vader showerheads.
I'm looking at the Geoff Jones Teen Titans comic that I have sitting in the corner, trying to come up with something that I can say.
Darth Vader showerheads.
Darth Vader
Christ.
showerheads. We paid for by Darth Vader showerheads in order to have our first guest on, but we were told because of our pending Hell Court cases, we're not allowed to mention his name.
Pending litigation.
Although I don't think that they're going to be happy with us when we mention the fact that he was sucking his thumb on the show. Like Birth of a Nation and Citizen Kane, Star Wars was a technical watershed that influenced many of the movies that came after.
Hey, Roger Ebert, probably not a great idea to mention Birth of a Nation while praising a movie. Just a little advice from someone who knows nothing about film critique.
Which one's Birth of a Nation?
It was
Oh God.
Originally called The Klansman.
It's
It's
literally responsible for the resurgence of the KKK during the Wilson administration.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
First movie ever screened at the White House.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not know that because it came out in 1915. I have not obviously seen that. I have seen Citizen Kane.
Ben!
What?
How have you seen this movie? How do you know about this movie?
Because I fucking hate. Because I hate Woodrow Wilson with the undying passion of 10 billion stars.
Everyone hates Woodrow Wilson.
I know. So the more things I can find out to hate him on, the better I sleep at night. Because like I am fueled by nothing but rage and spite and pasta.
Star Wars was a technical watershed that influenced many of the movies that came after. These films have little in common except for the way they came along as a crucial moment in cinema history, when new methods were ripe for synthesis. He's still talking about it. Birth of a Nation brought together the developing language of shots and editing. Citizen Kane married special effects and advanced sound with new photographic style and a freedom for linear storytelling. Star Wars melted a new generation of special effects with the high-energy action picture.
That is quite the collection of films, Mr. Ebert.
The look on Ben's face,
Yeah.
I couldn't even begin to describe. It just made me laugh so hard.
It really doesn't help.
I don't know what that combination of facial expressions Ben just had was, but it was fantastic.
I didn't even know I was making faces.
It was like sad,
you were.
and mad, and annoyed.
It really doesn't help that Chris and I have seen a lot of movies in our lifetime. A lot of movies. Birth of a Nation ain't one, but Ben knew it immediately.
It's something I've heard of vaguely, and I know the name. I just have no idea what it is or any significance to it. Ben fucking like that.
That is on my list of if someone's like, "Hey, let's go watch this movie." It is on site. Just fuck
Who
this
are you
person.
hanging out with?
Nobody.
Hang out with it. That's a worry. A 1915
nobody. I'm
silent
saying if
film
this
about
happens.
the KKK. Oh. Star Wars melded a new generation of special effects with the high-energy action picture. It linked space opera and soap opera, fairy tales and legend, and packaged them as a wild visual ride. Star Wars effectively brought to an end the golden era of early 1970s personal filmmaking and focused on the industry of big-budget special effects blockbusters, blasting off a trend that we are still living through. I don't know why, maybe it's just me, but I feel like the dripping of the ink on the words still living through. But that might just be me in 2022 thinking about the state of cinema. But you can't blame it for what it did. You can only observe how well it did it.
Sure, I can. You can't tell me what to do.
In one way or another, all the big studios have been trying to make another Star Wars ever since. Pictures like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jurassic Park, and Independence Day are its heirs. Or the MCU. It located Hollywood's center of gravity at the intellectual and emotional level of a bright teenager.
I do like that one of the things he lists is another George Lucas property. Like, look, he's trying to imitate himself.
I think there's a lot of, like, film snobs that would say, yeah, George Lucas was pretty great until he tried to do Star Wars 12 times.
I was going to say, and I'm not trying to say, like, I'm not trying to discount what he said, because, I mean, George tried to catch lightning in a bottle more than once.
It's possible, however, that as we grow older, we retain within the tastes of our earlier selves. How else to explain how much fun Star Wars is, even for those who think they don't care for science fiction? It's a good-hearted film in every single frame, and shining through is the gift of a man who knew how to link the state-of-the-art technology with a deceptively simple, really very powerful story. It was not by accident that George Lucas worked with Joseph Campbell, an expert on the world's basic myths in fashioning a screenplay that owes much to man's oldest stories. But now the ritual of classic film revival is well established. An older classic is brought out from the studio vaults, restored frame by frame, re-released in the best theaters, and then relaunched on home video. With this special edition, in quotation marks, of the Star Wars, in quotation marks, trilogy, which includes the new versions of Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back, Lucas has gone one step beyond. His special effects were so advanced in 1977 that they spun off an industry, including his own Industrial Light and Magic company, the computer wizards who do many of today's best special effects. Now Lucas put ILM to work touching up the effects, including some that his limited 1977 budget left him unsatisfied with. Most of the changes are subtle. You'd need a side-by-side comparison to see that a shot is a little better. There are about 5 minutes of new material, including a meeting between Han Solo and Jabba the Hutt that was shot for the first version but not used. In parentheses, we learn that Jabba is not immobile, but sloshes along in a kind of spongy undulation. There's also
I want to keep that quote of it being slight changes in the back of our minds as George progressively.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Chris.
We lost Chris.
I love how we get the line. Most of it is subtle and just like I wish Roger Ebert would have kept that in mind, seeing George Lucas progressively put more and more CGI puke into these movies the longer he just had them sitting around.
Well, it is worth noting that this first round of edits is a lot of small things. Like, we don't talk about... I know. But, yeah, it did get worse and worse. But this original state was pretty bad. The first one that he mentions actually is one of the part of the movie that upsets me the most every rewatch now. There are about 5 minutes of new material, including a meeting between Han Solo and Jabba the Hutt that was shot for the first version but not used. We learn that Jabba is not immobile, but sloshes along in a kind of spongy undulation. The scene's bad, Jabba's bad, that's not what pisses me off. What pisses me off is the entire scene is, line for line, like, there are 3 lines that were in the Han shot first scene that made it into the final movie. So it's a useless fucking scene. And it pisses me off every time.
Yeah, it's already known information from like literally like 5 minutes before.
And word for word copied lines. There's also an improved look to the city of Mos Eisley, a wretched hive of scum and villainy, says Obi-Wan Kenobi. And the climactic battle scene against the Death Star has been rehabbed. The improvements are well done, but they point up how well the effects were done to begin with. If the changes are not obvious, that's because Star Wars got the look of the film so right in the first place. The obvious comparison is with Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, which every single one of these reviews has brought it up. Made almost 10 years earlier in 1968, which also holds up perfectly well today. In parentheses, one difference is that Kubrick went for realism, trying to imagine how his future world would really look, while Lucas cheerfully plundered the past. Han Solo's Millennium Falcon has a gun turret with a hand-operated weapon that would be at home on a World War II bomber, but too slow to hit anything at space velocities. 2 Lucas inspirations started the story with a tease. He set the action not in the future but long ago, and jumped into the middle of it with Chapter 4, A New Hope. These seemingly innocent touches were actually rather powerful. They gave the saga the aura of an ancient tale and an ongoing one. As if those 2 shocks were not enough for the movie's first moments, I learned from a review by Mark R. Leeper that this was the first film to pan the camera across a star field. Space scenes had always been done with a fixed camera, and for very good reason. It was more economical not to create a background of stars large enough to pan through. As the camera tilts up, a vast spaceship appears from the top of the screen and moves overhead, an effect reinforced by the surround sound. It is such a dramatic opening that it's no wonder Lucas paid a fine and resigned from the Directors Guild rather than obey its demands that he begin with conventional opening credits.
Damn.
That's actually, I can't believe we haven't mentioned that before. The opening credits literally was forced at one point, and you saw it go out of style in the 80s and 90s, largely because of Star Wars. A lot of things that changed about the film industry was because of Star Wars and the, shall we say, rampant takeover of capitalism in every corner of American society. That is not, I read it like I was reading Roger Ebert's words. I was not. Those are my words. You know, Ben, that thing you didn't know existed, which was the opening credits to a movie.
Movies have credits?
When I was in high school, I took a broadcast communications class, and my teacher always said, he would say, if you go to see a movie, stay through the credits because you want to give appreciation to everybody that worked on the movie. And I truly believe that, and I did that, and that meant that I was pretty into the MCU end of the credits thing. And it wasn't until I was told by people who used to work in theaters, hey, we want to get the fuck out of there, and we don't have a lot of time to clean, get the fuck out, that I was like, oh, maybe this was a bad idea.
Yeah, I have said that before, like, sitting through a Marvel movie, like, I feel bad. Which, honestly, at this point, I usually don't anymore. Especially because, I mean, the last few movies, they haven't been important.
I mean, since I haven't been in a movie theater since the start of the pandemic.
I mean, I also haven't, what the hell's the last movie I saw in theaters?
What's a movie theater?
Ben.
The hell is the last movie I saw in theaters?
I think, for me, it might have been Rise of Skywalker.
I think Rise of Skywalker would be... I think we went to the movies one time somewhat recently. Eternals. I saw Eternals.
Ooh. I'm not catching COVID for Eternals.
I'm the only person on the planet who liked that movie, I know.
I'm not saying, like, but I'm not, like, this movie gets talked about to an incessantly annoying amount now, but I didn't even risk getting COVID to watch Spooper Dude. Like, and I liked that movie. That's what
it was. I saw that in theaters. I saw that in theaters, yep.
I thought that was a pretty excellent movie.
That was the one where, it was like, look, our cases are down, we got vaxxed, slap those masks on. We're gonna fucking hunker down. We're gonna risk it for Spider-Man.
The film has simple, well-defined characters, beginning with the robots C-3PO, facetious and a little affecté, and R2-D2 childlike and easily hurt. The evil empire has... Oh, I feel like that's an insult to R2-D2, sir. The evil empire has all...
Well, he clearly didn't know what R2 was up to behind the scenes. You know,
Yeah,
that's-
I mean, this was... Obviously, it got bad at Return of the Jedi, but it gets worse when the prequels come out. The evil empire has all but triumphed in the galaxy, but rebel forces are preparing an assault on the Death Star. Princess Leia... He uses the term pert. Sassy Carrie Fisher has information pinpointing the Death Star's vulnerable point and feeds it into R2-D2's computer. When her ship is captured, the robots escape from the Death Star and find themselves on Luke Skywalker's planet, where soon Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill as an idealistic youngster, meets wise old mysterious Kenobi, Alec Guinness, who does not get additional information, unlike everyone else. And they hire the freelance space jockey Han Solo, Harrison Ford, are already laconic, to carry them
What
to
did he call
Leia's
him?
rescue. Laconic. It's like, I think it's another word for...
No. Space Fair. What was it? What was his title?
Harrison Ford's?
Han Solo.
Han Solo.
They hired the what?
Space jockey Han Solo. Freelance space jockey Han
Space-
Solo.
Jockey. I thought he said freelance space junkie. I was like, what?
I mean, Leia did marry a drug dealer who flies the galactic...
Equivalent of a... What the hell did I say?
Yeah,
Cutlass Sierra.
of a Cutlass Sierra. We can't even remember our own bits anymore.
I'm so tired.
The story is advanced with spectacularly effective art design, set decorations, and effects. Although the scene from the intergalactic bar is famous for its menagerie of alien drunks, there is another scene when the two robots are thrown into a hold with other used droids, which equally fills the screen with fascinating throwaway details. And a scene in the Death Star's garbage bin, inhabited by a snake with a head curiously shaped like E.T.'s, is also well done. Many of the planetscapes are startlingly beautiful and owe something to fantasy artist Chesley Bonstell's imaginary drawings of other worlds. The final assault on the Death Star, when the fighter rockets speed between parallel walls, is a nod in the direction of 2001, with its light trip into another dimension. Kubrick showed, and Lucas learned, how to make the audience feel it is hurtling headlong through space. Lucas fills his screen with loving touches. There are little alien raps hopping around the desert, and a chess game played with living creatures. Luke's weather-worn speeder vehicle, with hovers over the sand, reminds me uncannily of a 1965 Mustang. And consider the detailed screening, the presence, look, and sound of Darth Vader, whose fanged face mask, black cape, and hollow breathing are the setting for James Earl Jones' cold voice of doom. Seeing the film the first time, I was swept away and have remained swept away ever since. Seeing this restored version, I tried to be more objective and noted that the gun battles on board spaceships go on a bit too long. It is remarkable that the Empire marksmen never hit anything important. And the fighter raid on the enemy ship now plays like the computer games it predicted. I wonder, too, if Lucas could have come up with more challenging philosophy behind the Force. As Kenobi explains it, it's basically just going with the flow. What if Lucas had pushed a little farther to include elements of non-violence or ideas of intergalactic conservation? It's a great waste of resources to blow up star systems.
He pushed it a little further, but it wasn't too much on the non-violence. They're like, hey, yeah, before this, the Jedi did a fucking war.
The film
Like
philosophy...
Roger Ebert wrote this, and then Phantom Menace came out, and he's just head in hands, like, okay, so they can't love, but they're just out here, just fighting wars.
Well, he would have written this after it came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Phantom Menace came out in May, and then this was written in June.
Okay.
The way I know this is because the stories that seem immortal, the film philosophies that will live forever, are their simplest seeming ones. They may have profound depths, but their surfaces are as clear to an audience as a beloved old story. The way I know this is because the stories that seem immortal, the Odyssey, Don Quixote, David Copperfield, Huckleberry Finn are all the same. A brave but flawed hero, a quest, colorful people and places, sidekicks, and the discovery of life's underlying truths. If I were asked to say with certainty which movies will still be widely known a century or two from now, I would list 2001: A Space Odyssey, and The Wizard of Oz, and Keaton and Chaplin, and Astar and Rogers, and probably Casablanca, and Star Wars, for sure. And that is that.
Well, at least he didn't put Birth of a Nation in that last list.
I'm giving him a little bit of leeway because, one, I didn't know what it was until tonight, and two, it was 1999 and 1977. But
It's true, and it's... I imagine it did actually, like, in terms of, like, cinematography, I'm sure it
That's
helped.
the thing, yeah.
Is all I'm gonna
Cinematography,
say.
It was very important, I think, but
yeah.
regardless of everything else and about
The
it.
fact that I Googled it and knew immediately that it was bad should say everything that needs to be said.
I mean, that's the type of title you hear. You just hear the title "Birth of a Nation,"
Yeah.
and it kind of makes you
It's
go,
like,
"Uh-oh."
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, that don't seem right. I
Oh
don't.
man, fucking Roger Ebert's the best, man. He's carrying us through whole episodes now. This is great. Does he have multiple reviews?
Great.
That's too also.
I don't know.
Thanks, Roger.
Thanks, Roger.
Thanks, Roger. Well, thank you so much, Roger Ebert. And this has been Star Wars Every Week Forever. Sorry we only did Roger Ebert's review, but really, what else do you need? Except maybe not mentioning The Birth of a Nation as many times as he did.
What else do you need? Hey, we talked about the movie we're on for a whole episode. It's something.
We're really going back to Hell Court. This has been Star Wars Every Week Forever.
Yeah.
Good night.
Wouldn't it be funny if our first cease and desist letter came from, like, whoever owns Roger Ebert's website now? We keep thinking it's Disney. Wouldn't that be fucking hilarious if we get a cease and desist order from the estate of Roger Ebert?
Fantastic news. He has 2 reviews of Empire Strikes Back.
Fuck yeah.
Which absolutely means we are going to get sued by whoever owns the Roger Ebert website. Hey, if you enjoyed us, thought we were funny, like our content, or just really love our suffering and want to hear more of it, we're available all over the place and release episodes every Wednesday around 12 Eastern Standard Time. You can find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Player FM, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and in a unique format over on YouTube that our fans seem to dig. You can join in on the conversation over on Twitter as well, at SWEWF. We're quite active and love to hear from our fans. Sincerely, though, we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to spend with us on this car crash of a ride.